started. Okay, antitrust policy. You can find the link to the policy on the LF and project websites. This policy is important where multiple companies, including potential industry competitors, are participating in meetings. Please review the policy, and if you have questions, contact your legal counsel. Members of the LF can contact Andrew Updegrove at the law firm of Gatzmeyer Updegrove LLP, which provides legal counsel to the LF. All right. I guess there was the testing for. Sorry, Alex, I jumped on. Do you want to lead, or I can? Just want to show you the agenda, then I'll let you take over for the most part.
Sorry, I was on mute. That's why you didn't hear me.
Yeah.
So can you go back to the agenda for a second?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right. So I just want to ask if there are any other agenda topics that we need to cover, just to make sure we're okay. So anybody has additional things we need to discuss?
I just wanted to double. I just wanted to double check of who's the TAC representative. Alex, I forgot if it was you or Jonas.
It's me.
Oh, it is you. Okay, very good. I just want to update. I want to update the TFC table, and I want to send you a fresh TAC meeting invite.
That would be great.
But thank you. Yeah.
All right. So if there are no other additional items, then let's proceed with the summit.
So let me know if this came up on the screen. This is the Developer Summit calendar for the 4 days, and we've got 2 ODIM sessions. One is the updates, and also going to mention a mention of the Supla blueprint, and that's on Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern. And then on Thursday is the BMC emulator and demo. Alex, who's leading this one? I don't seem to have the contact for this.
Rafael will is leading this from his team is going to be doing the demo. I sent an email yesterday. I don't know if you saw, but I copied you and I basically said, Rafael, how's my assumption is that his team is going to staff this.
For some reason, I had a brain fart and I can't seem to find his contact on our mailing list. Maybe I have to.
He's the backup TSC. He's the backup TSC member. So.
Okay.
So I will. He doesn't have, that's a good point. He doesn't have an email address that I can forward you his email address.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Okay, very good. Here he is right here. Perfect. Yeah, send it over to me because for some reason I can't find it in the group mailing list. So that's fine.
And Louis, this is Susan. Would you mind posting again that link straight into the schedule? I clicked the link in the agenda for this meeting, but it goes somewhere else.
Oh, really? Let me see. Oh, let me go back.
And I wanted the link into that schedule. I think that would be helpful. Maybe a second link.
Yeah, let me go ahead and I'll drop this in the chat. You're talking about this one here that's up on the screen?
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
Louis, I pasted Rafael's email address into the chat.
Thank you.
And I'll fix the page.
Thank you. Oh, perfect. I appreciate that as well. Let me, yes, thank you for that. Yeah, for some reason, he's not on our mailing list. I'm going to add him. Yeah, he should definitely be on the mailing list. Okay, I will add Rafael on the mailing list. I just also dropped the calendar link onto the chat for these
Thank you.
sessions. Yep, next week. And I sent everybody a the ODIM, the 2 sessions for ODIM, so they should be right on your calendar. And then the rest of it obviously is on this link here.
Yeah, so thank you for that.
Yep. I think last we got this 5G Super Blueprint update. I'll just say that Daniel did a normally outstanding job, as always, presenting the case for ODIM, and I think it was very well received. Daniel, you want to give a quick update on yesterday?
Yeah, sure. I think
You're breaking up, Daniel.
Yeah, it's sounding robotic.
it was good. I gave a short update. There wasn't yet. Yeah. I changed my now. So is it still robotic?
No,
I
it's
think it's better now.
better.
Okay. Yeah, I try to take some meetings walking, and there is one part of my walk that is bad reception, and that's exactly when I normally have to talk. And then, but hopefully you can hear me now. No, so I think I gave a short update to kind of our ideas for the Super Blueprint. There wasn't any major feedback comments. There was one question about kind of the OEM adoption of this and who is supporting, and I kind of gave an answer to what we were working with, and also kind of that it's open and pluggable and expandable. But overall, I think it was good, and I think we are good to go for kind of a bit deeper dive on next week's presentation.
Yeah, agreed. Based on the the little bit of feedback, which was positive, I think we're good to go for next week, and also continue on. Daniel, you had provided a nice. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You first.
Just a quick question. Sorry to interrupt. So, do we have some specific concrete proposals of where we could fit in, and is that the next step, is to formulate that and make a more detailed proposition?
Yeah, so let me send out the slides. So basically the slides has kind of some of the 5G challenges and how ODIM can help, and then it has a slide on kind of what parts of the Super Blueprint that could be managed by ODIM, and where we fit into the kind of infrastructure management box on the right on that picture. So I'll share those 3 slides that I presented with everyone here.
Yeah, I put them up on the screen. I think the slides address pretty well the 5G infrastructure challenges, as well as the ODIM solutions in writing here on slide 2. And then I really like slide 3. What I'd like to see if we can do, let me go back. I'd like to see if we can get some version of this into the actual 5G Super Blueprint architecture slides, because I think we could maybe update those slides and have ODIM as one of those bottom layers there for the infrastructure manager.
So on the Super Blueprint slide, I didn't put in ODIM as a logo. I just put in a dot there where we can be, right. I didn't want to kind of go ahead before we are kind of officially in. And then the last slide is more of the details.
Daniel, can I ask a quick question on this? I haven't seen these before, so I'm just kind of absorbing this. On the slide, we seem to be saying that we will be playing in the SDN controller domain, which is not exactly.
No. So that's not what we're saying. So basically, the reason for that box is the discussion we had a couple of weeks back, right? There is two ways we can fit in. One is to be part of the infrastructure management block. The other way is that we have a separate block for physical infrastructure management, similar to the SDM block, right? The SDM block is separate underneath the infrastructure management, right? And the infrastructure management is mainly virtual infrastructure management. So the two options are either make a separate block for us, similar to the SDN controller, or be part of the infrastructure management.
Okay. But here ODIM seems to be a block that cuts across all these different management domains.
No, it's just a marker, and then you see the dots. So the
Gotcha.
dots are kind of what I talked about.
Okay, got it.
And we can fine tune that graphics, right? But I think it's clear when you present it. When you look at the slide, I agree that it can be a bit confusing. The whole idea with this slide, the next slide is more important. This slide is more to kind of show this is the area we fit into. These are the three dots. The first dot is where we fit in. It's the infrastructure management, or as a separate block, similar to the SDN controller. And then we manage both the kind of cloud core servers as well as edge servers.
Yeah, right.
But we can fine tune that graphics a bit. I agree that we don't encompass the SDN controller, right? The idea there is that.
I'm sorry. The only reason I'm being sensitive here is because initially we went out of our way not to create an impression that we were dabbling in somebody else's space, right? We wanted to really have crisp boundaries around what ODIM was. And I think the rest of it looks great. I think we just need to kind of figure out how do we adjust this so that maybe ODIM is all the way on the left, and then this thing, the green thing, stops at the cloud core kind of edge, and then whatever happens from the SDN controller would interact with ODIM. Yeah,
I agree. We can fine tune that. We had a similar discussion last week on the other main slide. This is just the kind of introduction slide. The main slide is kind of the one I draw, trying to kind of replicate what they have in the super blueprint to kind of fit ODIM better. We had a discussion also if ONAP should be in the picture or at all last week. And then we agreed that it's kind of one level up from what we see in the picture. So it's okay to have it there. But that was a similar discussion last week.
Well, so we were asked to explicitly kind of remove references to ONAP that might be misconstrued as an agreement to work together.
Yeah.
So we just need to be, I think this slide is fine because, you're not really saying specifically anything about ONAP. You're really just talking about Mano stacks.
Yeah.
And I would actually argue that it's somehow we need to distinguish between what you mean by infrastructure management and what we mean by infrastructure management, because they're not one and the same.
Yes. So I think that's exactly the discussion we had last week, and I think you were not there, right?
Yeah.
Because I think also the options of kind of being in the bottom part of the infrastructure management as the physical, or having a separate box for physical infrastructure management, and kind of how we make that clear is one part where we should detail before next week's presentation and kind of add a few more slides on that. I also wanted, either in the main presentation or in this specific, you had the slide with kind of showcasing the complexity on how things look today and how with a lot of arrows, and then how simple it will look with ODIM. And I think that's the slide we should have in the introduction part or as part of this for next week.
Yeah, just another point of clarification. ONAP actually does resource management at the logical, sort of at the VNF level, right? So ONAP in some sense overlaps with what you have there.
No, but this is the 5D, how the 5D blueprint draws it, right? So that's this presentation was for 5D blueprint, so we copied exactly how they draw it and draw us in.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
So this is a copy of the 5D blueprint.
Got it.
I went ahead and dropped the link to the 5G Super Blueprint phases, which have the architectural drawings. I'm going to pull that up real quick. I just want folks to maybe take a look at this and start thinking about it. Give me 1 second.
How is Bob?
Okay.
Maybe you can answer this. How is 5G Blueprint connected with Oniket reference model?
That question's to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know about the reference model, but what they would like to do is use the Aniket reference implementations as a code base. For like for this blueprint, they want to build on the cloud native platform from Aniket.
But Oniket just does what? I mean, what's the code that they produce?
Aniket has both an OpenStack, VM-based runtime as a reference implementation that they use it for fleshing out the test suites for reference conformance, and they have a cloud native Kubernetes container runtime. Actually, one that Intel contributed, and they're building upon that.
And what's the distinction between what Oniket is responsible for versus Kubernetes?
Well,
I mean, Kubernetes manages bare metal, right? It doesn't need Oniket to do that. Are we saying that Oniket will define the model for what bare metal looks like?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think it's just there is a Kubernetes runtime environment, a reference implementation they'll pull from Aniket as a baseline to build upon. I think that's it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I get it. All right. So this is all, but this is I always get confused, right? Because I see lab as a service and I say, who cares? I want to understand how this would work in a 5G edge data center, or how this would work in a 5G core. Well, I'm not sure lab as a service is the top of mind, sort of should be the top of mind priority for anybody.
I think that's just referring to they're going to use the Linux Foundation's Lab as a Service infrastructure to prototype the demo on. That's a very specific. That's not a general reference. That's a very specific Linux Foundation resource lab at UNH, just to build. That's all.
Yeah. So I put this up on the screen, and just to get folks familiar with the 3 phases. Never mind the date. The dates here are completely out of whack, and they need to be adjusted. But it's more of a internal thing we're dealing with. But phase 1 is the 5G core and mobile edge, and then phase 2 is more of an end-to-end 5G with mobile edge, and then introducing on phase 3. I'm sorry, I think I said phase 2. Yeah, ORAN and slicing. So the reason is I like to think about how we don't want to modify this, but we do want to see where ODIM fits in from an architecture standpoint with respect to this type of diagram. So maybe we can start thinking about how to depict it here and its interfaces. So that we can introduce it to the 5G Super Blueprint community as updates to these of where ODIM would fit in from this perspective.
But we've already kind of, I mean, I just don't know how many different ways we need to do this, right? So these pictures kind of conflate together the management stack and the runtime stack. At least in part, right? And so if you split those out and tease those apart, then what you'll end up with is the situation where all the virtual network functions and cloud native network functions would eventually need to reside on some bare metal because there's no magic in the world, right? And you know, if we show that layer and put a lasso around it and say this is where ODIM plays, that would pretty much do it.
Yeah, you
Right.
know, one thing to keep in mind here is that this diagram is more intended to show Linux Foundation project involvement and less
Yeah.
a architecturally correct, you know, stack diagram. So
Good
you know,
Okay.
point. Good point. Yeah. So
All
maybe more abstract, which might actually be better for us, right? Maybe.
Well, no, what I
Um,
would do then is add another blue bubble underneath it all and say ODIM.
yeah, Odo, you know, let's add Odin to the picture. Definitely, it's a.
Well,
I mean,
no, I mean, I think it's an actually NFVI stops at NFV stops at the virtual level. The level below NFVI is ODIM.
okay,
Okay, because we don't care about virtual machines. We don't care about containers.
right.
What we care about is how those get, how the physical infrastructure is manipulated in order to deliver or deploy those kinds of virtualization or containerization services. But you know, we're not going to have a say in how hypervisor works. That's
Right.
that's the part of an NFVI. So I think it's very simple to position ODIM here. Just draw a big, huge, blue box below the NFVI thing in the middle and say that's where physical infrastructure management happens.
Yep.
Yeah, let's take it one step at a time. Let's get buy-in from the blueprint community and project that Odin can play a role in this, and then we can have the diagram rewritten to incorporate it into the architecture.
Okay, I mean, we can do whatever we need to do. I guess my only question is, are they concerned with physical infrastructure or not? If they're not, then, we have an uphill battle. If they believe that the physical infrastructure management domain is part of this blueprint, then okay.
So
But
the good news
I
for
guess,
us is that.
yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry. No, I was just
No, I was
thinking,
gonna-
saying, go ahead, you first.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Daniel. I'll let you go, and then I'll sort of give my 2 cents.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say, we had the first presentation yesterday, right? And kind of try to pitch that ODIM should have a spot here. I think the first step is to get into the overall blueprint picture, right? And then when we get there, we can work ourselves into these details. And from there, we should also work our way into the actual demos, right? The problem with the demos right now is that they are kind of concerned with getting commercial VNFs working on Kubernetes on a single server. So it's not super interesting yet. So we have some time to get in there, but I think the first step is to get into the overall super blueprint picture. And it's in somewhat, it's a confusing picture, but I think we should see it that the first step is to get our logo in there and then kind of work our way from there into all of these pictures.
But our logo would, I guess what I'm really saying is our logo does not belong in any of these boxes.
Well, yeah,
No.
but it would belong in the box below NFVI, as you said, which makes sense.
Exactly. But I
So
still think the first step is to put it on the overall picture, the blueprint picture. And that picture also architecturally doesn't make sense because it has all these logos thrown in everywhere, and then you have Anacat in the middle that it's hard to kind of figure out.
It's hard to position
Yeah.
something on a marketing slide.
It's true. And at some point we have to get an actual architecture slide because we need to start looking at the integrations between the different platforms. But at the same time, I do agree with Daniel that I think it's important that we get some visibility. So the good news for us is there's no formal TSC on this blueprint committee that says yes or no, you can or can't do anything. If we show that we belong and we've got some use cases that will fit, which we do, and we've shown it, then our participation is up to us. If we decide that yes, we want to be here, and yes, these are our use cases, and this is how we're going to fit in, and we do it, and we build in the integration points, then we're in. If we decide as a team it's not worth it, or it's not going to work, or we lose interest and we decide to pull out, then we're out. You know what I mean? So it's sort of a self-driven. There's no governing body on top that says yes, you can participate, and no, you can't. It's open to anybody. Yeah.
I
So
guess I kind of see a missing step here, Louis, and I don't know who in
Mhm.
LF is dealing with this, but my recommendation would be to use the existing architecture sort of diagram, the one that was produced by the Oniket reference guy, model guys, and map Linux Foundation projects into those boxes, because they already show the interactions that need to happen. So what they don't show is actual realization mapping, right? So if Magma
Mhm.
needs to be part of that world, then let's point at, let's color in the right box and say, this is Magma, this is Oniket, this is ONAP, this is, in fact, they've done that with ONAP in the past. So I don't see, it'll be more coherent, right? Because what they do is also split off the management stack from the runtime. And they have a very clear delineation of what interfaces and how and by what means, the layers of the runtime stack are managed. Right now, you can still say, take that abstract view and now make it concrete by saying, this is where DPDK goes, this is where Ceph goes, this is where Kubernetes goes. Right. I would
So
suggest
Mhm.
doing something like that, because at least in the telco space, that diagram makes a lot of sense because it's rooted in the ETSI architecture, which is, they still has a lot of support.
Alex, do you happen to have a link to that handy that you could send over to me? Because what I want to do is
It
queue
was
it up
part of
for our
our
next.
slide deck. We actually
Oh, part of
showed,
ours.
yeah. I mean, we took the diagram from Oniket guys, and we used it to position ODIM in the clearest possible way. And if you want to, if it turns, if we can do that mapping exercise for for the rest of these items as part of the 5G kind of blueprint planning, you'll immediately see where the overlap is and where it needs to be and where it needs to be eliminated.
Yeah, but
Yep.
keep
Yep.
in mind that was not the intent of, again, this was not the intent of this. This diagram was not an architecturally correct diagram, although
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I sort of agree with everybody, but one thing, and then I'm gonna bring to the when we set the agenda for next meeting is it sounds like, and shame on me, but we do need some solid architectural drawings of the entire solution, at least for phase one.
yeah.
And yeah, because what we're trying to do is find the integration points between the platforms so that we can set some type of a project plan for those integrations, so we can actually schedule things around those integrations in order to enable this thing to work. But without that architecture, we're sort of shooting blanks, obviously. So yeah, I'll take that for myself to introduce that.
That architecture diagram would also give you the ability to put some thoughts around validation, right, of interoperability.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess in this picture, also Magma and Oniket and ONAP would need even more complicated drawings to really showcase how it actually works, right?
Well, I mean, it would be immediately obvious where things don't make sense at all. I mean, I understand we want to put every Linux Foundation project on a slide, but at the same time, there's so much overlap. You're right, Daniel. I mean, there's a lot of overlap between Magma and ONAP, and forget Anakit for a second, because to me that's kind of like a prescription body or a definitional body. But some of these projects have like tons of code that would overlap. Like Kubernetes is an orchestration engine, just like ONAP is, but it uses a completely different set of principles to manage things by. So how do you need both? Right? These are the questions that would come up once you start mapping. But for our sake, if we use that base, picture from Monica, our mapping is very simple. Bottom right, there's a box that says hardware infrastructure management. That's where we fit in along with the SDN piece.
Yeah, no, I agree. But at the same time, we discussed like a couple of weeks back if we should try to push own box similar to the SDN controller for physical infrastructure management, or if we just should put our logo to start with in the infrastructure management box, and we agreed to put the logo in the infrastructure management box just as a starting point, right?
That's fine. That's good enough. I mean, you agree, Daniel, that at least gave immediate clarity to where the boundaries are and what the interface points are.
Yeah.
That's what you want, right? If you want to do something real. So maybe there should be a TSC.
Yeah, it's certainly up to discussion. We're figuring out the best way to govern this thing. And that certainly might wind up being the answer, depending on how big and unwieldy this thing gets.
Right.
But okay, I think we're off to a good start, and I think we can certainly continue down the path. But you bring up some really good points that I need to bring back to the 5G Super Blueprint folks about.
Who from ODIM is representing us there?
Daniel, sorry, I want to say right now you've been front and center.
So Bob was there from the beginning, and then I joined in as well. I guess.
I often cannot make this meeting, so I've joined just a couple of times just to get an understanding of what it is and what they're trying to achieve. And that picture is still evolving, by the way. This thing is part of a much bigger effort, actually. We could spend another half an hour talking about the whole DoD Ops 5G program for a national secure 5G open source stack, but that's what's driving this blueprint is actually.
Oh no.
Yeah. So it's there's DoD funding. This is a showcase behind that.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah. And really, yeah, it's really a proof of concept type of thing that we're trying to prove.
Yeah.
So obviously not a product of any kind.
Yeah, but I mean, look, if you're gonna have multi-vendor kind of interoperability or multi-vendor sort of participation in something like this, you have to define clear boundaries for the functional elements.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what's missing today, right? I mean, great, when somebody can explain to me where Magma starts and ends versus ONAP versus Kubernetes, then it'll be okay.
Yeah,
well,
but I guess
okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
No, it's okay.
I was going to answer something completely different. So if you want to comment on the Magma.
No.
Yeah, but the plan ahead is that we push to get in on the marketing level to just be in the group, right? We have the presentation next week with the more details, and then we also have the slides that more talks about the detailed use cases and architecture, and then we also have the long-term ambition to redraw the diagrams, but we are not going to do it in this TSE, right? So
Okay.
That's how I see it.
And so just an FYI, slightly different topic, but not quite. William Caban was from Red Hat was helping us with the 5G Super Blueprint, but he sent me a Slack message last week saying, due to human bandwidth, I'm no longer involved with LFN or ODIM. I've stopped joining the meetings as they conflict with other meetings I'm assigned to. From Red Hat, Hanan Garcia, who's very active in Super Blueprint, is working with us. So Hanan is on several LFN projects and very active on the Super Blueprint, but obviously not involved with ODIM.
Yeah.
So so that's an FYI about William. He's pretty much dropped off LFN and ODIM. So right now, Daniel, I guess from a technical side, it's you, and from a program manager, obviously, I'm helping out with that. So just that's the status.
Okay,
Alright.
yeah,
I have
and
to
maybe
run,
interesting
guys.
also. Okay,
Yeah, I have to run as
I-
well.
yeah.
Okay.
I just want to comment that Hanan was the only one who asked a specific question on the last meeting, right?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
yesterday's meeting. So that was
That's
good.
true.
All right, guys, I gotta go, but you guys can continue if there's other topics, but I gotta run, but thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Looks like we lost Alex as well.
I don't think we have any more topics, do we?
I don't think so. I think that's it for the. So yeah. So next week we are canceled because of the June testing forum, that developer testing forum. So the next meeting will be two Wednesdays from now.
Sounds good. Okay,
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 Thank you all. Bye.